The terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 were a defining moment in world history. That incident led the world to profound changes in the political landscape and shaped the global discourse on terrorism and security. However, in the aftermath of the attacks, many theories have emerged suggesting the events of that day were not as they seem. Also, there may have been more to the story than what the public was told. So, the most asked question about this is, was 9/11 an inside job? If you have this question in mind, then this video is for you. Before moving on to that, we want to welcome you to The Hidden Agenda. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we will explore the various claims and evidence around this theory. Join us as we dive deep into one of the most controversial and hotly debated topics of our time. Back in September 2001, hijackers from a terrorist group called Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airplanes all at once. They flew 2 of them right into the World Trade Center, and the other plane crashed into the Pentagon. Pentagon is the headquarters of the US military. The 4th plane was headed to another important building in Washington, D.C., but some really brave people on board fought back. Lastly, the plane ended up crashing into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania instead. This was a huge disaster. People all over the world were watching it on TV, feeling scared and sad. Things started changing fast after that. The United States government decided to take action and invaded Afghanistan with the help of other countries. A year later, there was talk of invading Iraq too. This was just the beginning of something that we now call the global war on terror. It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, it's hard to deny how much of this event and the war that followed have shaped our world today. Back then, there were lots of media and protesters who said that what happened that day wasn't as it seemed. People were confused by the news and the way it was reported. Some people thought that something wasn't right, and they came up with all sorts of crazy theories. These theories ranged from complicated technical questions about how buildings are built to wild accusations that aliens living on the moon were behind the attacks. Some people even said that the US government knew about the attack beforehand and did nothing to stop it. There were even some strange stock market deals made just before the attack. Some people think these were part of the plan. For example, a company called American Airlines had a lot of people betting that their stock would go down right before the attacks. But if you look closer, you'll see that the company had already reported losses, so it might not be so suspicious after all. The owner of the World Trade Center, Larry Silverstein, had renewed the insurance contract on the towers just a few months before the big event. After a previous bombing in 1994, he made sure that the contract had protections against terrorism. Now, some people thought this was fishy. They even claimed that secret gold had been moved out of the World Trade Center just days before the event. Others even claimed that the towers were demolished on purpose with the help of something called thermite, which doesn't explode and can't be used for demolishing buildings. But many experts have said this theory is just plain wrong. Some theorists, like the infamous Alex Jones, claimed that the crash of Flight 93 in Pennsylvania was suspicious. They believed that the debris field was too big and that it looked like a cover-up. But an airline accident expert who had worked on a similar crash back in 1996 firmly denied these claims. As if that wasn't enough, some conspiracy theorists even suggested that Flight 93 had landed safely in Ohio. However, these types of claims were actually due to logistical errors on that chaotic day. But, of course, pointing this out usually led to a negative response, leaving the debate empty and unresolved. Amidst all the confusion and uncertainty, some theorists began to accuse other governments. They claimed that other governments knew about the plot but withheld information from the US, allowing the attacks to occur. Some even went so far as to implicate the intelligence services of Pakistan or Israel's Mossad, or claim that Saudi Arabia had funded the attacks. It's hard to know what happened on that fateful day, and many books have been written trying to address these claims. Interestingly, the former head of Pakistani intelligence and the former president of Italy, Francesco Cossiga, were believers in these conspiracy theories. Let's get one thing straight. There are a lot of wild theories out there about what really happened on 9/11. Some people believe that foreign governments were involved, like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia. But before we dive into that, let's talk about intelligence agencies. Intelligence agencies are always trying to prevent potential threats, but there are so many plots and leads to follow that sometimes things slip through the cracks. This is what happened with the CIA's missing warnings about the attacks. And it's possible that Pakistani intelligence missed something too. Now, let's talk about Saudi Arabia. It's a big country with a huge royal family and a lot of money flowing in and out of the government. Some people think that some of the money may have made its way into the hands of Al-Qaeda. But there's no concrete evidence to support this claim, and it's a pretty suspicious accusation to make without solid proof. But there may be some truth to the idea that there was some Saudi money involved in the attacks. There may be a record of it in some intelligence databases. However, it's definitely more complex than just saying that Saudi Arabia funded the attacks. Also, some people think that there's evidence of a cover-up. They believe that important forensic evidence, like the black box from Flight 77, was hidden or destroyed. There are even some who say that Osama bin Laden's video taking credit for the attacks was faked. When it comes to the 9/11 attacks, there's no shortage of conspiracy theories. Some people think that a certain tape holds all the answers. But what about the 2007 tape by bin Laden himself taking responsibility? Or the Al Jazeera interview with two guys who planned the attacks confessing their involvement? The US has arrested a lot of people who have already told their side of the story. Of course, there are always some who want to believe something a little more out there. Some folks say that the attacks were actually carried out by Israeli agents instead of extremist Islamic militants, and they even accuse Jews of not showing up to work that day. That's just plain crazy. But wait, there's more. Some conspiracy theorists say that the planes used in the attacks were just holograms covering up missiles. So, with all these theories out there, what's the deal? Why do these conspiracy theorists think that the attacks were ordered in the first place? Who knows, maybe they just like to stir up trouble. Some Pax American theorists think it's all a big plan by the neoconservatives to take over the world. They started a completely illegal war in Iraq, and now they're being accused of orchestrating the most tragic event in American history. Not a good look for them, right? But let's be real, the way that they went about things wasn't exactly well planned. It's hard to imagine they had a master plan for world domination. Then, some believe that the attacks were all about getting their hands on the world's oil supply. But seriously? Afghanistan? Not exactly the best place to start if you're looking for oil. Iraq may be rich in oil, but there are plenty of other states in the Middle East that the US could have worked with instead. And finally, there's the theory that the attacks were all part of a plan to bring about the New World Order. There's this group of banks, corporations, globalists, and military folks who wanted to establish a world government. These conspiracy theories have been around for a long time, but somehow they always come back to the New World Order. So, what really happened on 9/11? Who knows? But one thing's for sure, these conspiracy theories make for some interesting conversation. The attacks were a tragedy, and terrorism does just what the name implies. 9/11 made us feel vulnerable, when in the West, we have been so comfy and safe from afar. It brought the conflicts and violence that we are not innocent of to our front door, and that makes us uneasy. It makes sense then that we can take comfort in thinking it was all a cover-up. But now, it's your time to decide whether it was an inside job or not. The attacks were a real heartbreaker, and terrorism is exactly what it sounds like. 9/11 made us feel like we could be attacked anytime and anywhere, even though we thought we were safe and sound from harm. It brought the fighting and violence we're not blameless of right to our doorstep, and that made us pretty worried. It's no wonder we wanted to believe it was just a big lie. But now, it's up to you to decide if it was an inside job or not. And that concludes today's episode. Like this video and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for staying with us.